You can't hear?
I can hear a little bit now.
Okay.
How about, is this better?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Okay.
Well, you're the chair, so you can call it to order.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. It is Friday, May 15th. Notice of this meeting was posted on May 13th, 2020. Commissioner Mon is present, Commissioner Bloomer is present, and Miles Davidson is sitting in for Commissioner Calvi. We have one item to consider. It is discussion and possible action to approve the recommendations of the Oklahoma County Emergency Response Committee. Mr. Barnes, are you present?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Does that mic work, or do you have to get over here? It does.
This one too?
There you go.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Based on discussions that we've had in Emergency Response Committee, which continue to be ongoing, excuse me, we have two recommendations to make to the commissioners today. I've got a document here. My apologies, you do not have this document, but the one that was provided at the earlier meeting, it is identical to that with the exception of the two modifications that we're proposing today. The first was under item number 7, which states elevator occupants are required to wear protective masks. The proposal we would respectfully represent to you is cloth or surgical mask use is required by all persons above the age of 2 in common areas of the Oklahoma County Annex or courthouse. A couple pieces of information. The age of 2 is guidance from CDC. That's what their recommendations are for the use of masks. And the cloth or surgical mask is also recommendation, as those are kind of a baseline standard, whereas the N95 masks are typically set aside for healthcare providers and persons who are doing the actual testing. And the cloth or surgical mask is what is recommended for public use. So the alternate number 7, again, cloth or surgical mask use is required by all persons above the age of 2 in common areas of the Oklahoma County Annex or courthouse. The second recommendation is a new number 11. It's actually a convenience issue for a lot of folks in Oklahoma County and also designed to hopefully reduce traffic coming in the north entrance of the Annex building. It states non-Oklahoma County employees who have been provided with electronic access cards are encouraged to use the employee entrance at the west end of the alley, or if accessing the courthouse, use the east courthouse entry. Those are the two recommendations that we propose to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Commissioner Mon, Miles, do you have any comments or questions?
I would prefer we have the wording that surgical mask use is recommended instead of required. I can go with required on the elevators, but I visited with council about this over the phone, and you know, there's no way that law enforcement can take any action to anybody who doesn't do this, and so we don't really have any teeth to back this up. I think, you know, obviously with the elevators, we can really try to persuade people to do something, but I would feel more comfortable about recommended instead of required. Otherwise, I don't have any problem with the new verbiage.
Is that your motion?
Well, I don't know if she has more discussion or not.
Miles, do you think it should be recommended versus required?
I think he's absolutely correct with it just having no teeth whatsoever.
I just don't want a combative situation, you know, in the hallways and putting our officers in a defensive position to have to try to enforce or really strong arm somebody or whatever. We've had a number of people express about their tendency to hyperventilate with these masks, or it causes them to have issues with claustrophobia, or if they've got autistic children, they are alarmed by things that you can't necessarily identify by looking at somebody, but you would be otherwise unaware. I think everybody ought to try to do this, and certainly our recommendation, but since I found out there wasn't anything we could really do in terms of we can't make them do it, then it makes the wording even hollow to begin with.
But you're fine with number 11? And Commissioner Blumer, just to be clear, number 11 is the non-Oklahoma County employees who have been provided electronic access cards are encouraged to use employee entrance at the west end of the alley. And if anybody hasn't seen that, the scaffolding's up, the blue tarps are up, and there are chairs for those that can't stand long enough or need to sit down to collect themselves. Those are also inside there. Special thanks to Chris Ponder and Keith Monroe and his group for getting that up and running very quickly.
I mean, are you asking me asking us because of security concerns? Or?
No, not security concern. I'm just making sure that, because number 11 is a completely new item to this page. It has not been addressed, has not been approved. The thought there were the bondsmen, the attorneys that have paid for their card to send them through the same way that we would the employees. We treat them the same as the employees when normal, they go through the turnstile. We're going to treat them the same as employees now and send them through employee entrance where there will be correct me if I'm wrong here, Mr. Barnes, a deputy standing there to ensure that everybody has a photo county issued ID, which is the card they use for the turnstiles.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding.
So
I don't have an issue with it. Do you?
No, I don't have an issue.
I just want to get one out of the way and then
Right.
move on.
I just think everybody's trying to do the best they can do under the circumstances. And I mean, we have two other elected officials here. Do either of you have any concerns about either one of these for a matter of input?
I don't have a concern, but I do have a question. Now, the elevator from the parking garage, the basement of this building will still be available, right?
Yeah, and it's still restricted in the event someone should come through the gate and meander down the ramp and get to that. They wouldn't be able to enter through that building, is my understanding.
My question is, we have the two entrances there at the front, so the attorneys, they won't be being utilized because all the people are coming from security. We have those two entrances that are going to be not used at all with the side door that's not going to be used. So does it not make sense to try to utilize that as well as decided? I mean, you're going to have nobody going to walk through the door, use the circle door, and run your people up to that. You still have a door on the right-hand side. You have two entryways there, two exits that car users can go through. You're not going to utilize them at all. They're just going to be vacant.
Yeah, it's a great point. And if you'll notice,
Can you repeat what he said?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. He is suggesting that we go ahead and use the turnstiles as they are currently up front for those with the
We're not going to be utilized.
badges.
Basically, we have the door on the far right-hand side, and we have the two turnstiles. And so not to use those, just not to use them at all, send the lawyers all the way around to the other doors. And those two just lanes not being utilized, it seems that would help with the traffic to utilize all the entrances we can, not just to forget about those two.
And what I was getting to is even on a normal day, let's just go back to February and March, we still have, and the deputies are going to have a lot of chaos going on. Normal day, we still have people that follow bondsmen, attorneys, employees through, and the security has to catch them at that point. The last thing I want to do at this given time, on Monday at least, is to do anything to distract those that are providing security, not only from physical harm, but from this pandemic. I don't want them distracted on what we're asking them to do. If we can just focus and put it this way to begin with, this is a living, breathing document. We can change it later should we need to.
You are gonna set up a path with your stand, your cones. You're gonna have the cones out there with a caution tape on each side of the pedestrian walking, right? Is that correct? So you're
Yes.
gonna lead them right to that open, the round doors. So you'll lead them right to it. So I don't see how they would put it.
Gate door, whichever one they need.
So,
I mean, they're not all gonna be able bodies, so.
Is there a way to send a message to the bar members that have this card? Do we have like an email where we send instructions?
send it to the bar, but it's too late tonight.
Well, I meant, like, I didn't know if the sheriff, which I don't see anybody here from their office, but do we keep a email address on file for everybody that we've issued a paid card to? Or we could help communicate this? I don't know.
We probably do, but
Yeah,
it's late
it's
evening.
just, it's right,
Late, we're
right.
last hour.
Commissioner, I was at a meeting in the law library at 1 o'clock.
Probably gonna.
I was at a meeting in the law library at 1 o'clock, and there were 2 judges and another attorney, a gentleman there. And it was recommended, we were discussing these points, and it was recommended there that one of those gentlemen would provide exactly what you're asking about to the bar. So I believe that notification hopefully did go that direction. It was discussed.
One last thing. I do have several employees with special needs that use walkers. Will they be allowed to come to the front door?
Yes,
They don't have to go around.
that's correct. Thank you. Yeah. ADA allowances or ADA accommodations were spoken of at the first round, and they are certainly going to be honored at the front door, whether public or employees or whomever. We'll definitely be dealing with that.
Including members of the bar, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a-
I have to agree with Miles that I think it's simpler and cleaner to have employees and people with that card ID, attorneys to go through that one. Is it the west entrance? I think it's just, for right now, I think it's simpler to explain it that way, have everyone come in that way. I understand Mr. Warren's comments, and I think Miles is right. This is a living, breathing document, living, breathing policies that I think we could reconvene and change if we needed to next week.
Well, and just so everybody's aware, the Emergency Response Committee, we are actually reconvening Monday at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
We intend, or I shouldn't say intend, we expect the rush to have been done at that point. And our thought is we could come through and address each individual issue. Like, I'm sure, Mr. Warren, you're going to have something that we're not even thinking of, and everybody's going to have those. And hopefully, if you've got those, you can make Mr. Barnes aware, or you can come tomorrow or Monday at 9:30 a.m. and make everybody aware of. So
Yeah.
we can address those fixed ASAP.
And then-
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, this is going to go back to the conversation about masks. So, Mr. Barnes, if you want to say anything about the doors, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say in general terms, referring to what Miles was talking about, we're also planning to have a meeting at the end of the day on Monday. It's what we call a hot wash or an after action. And anybody would be invited to that. That'll obviously be a public meeting as well. We're a culmination of ideas and just to basically review what we did the first day, what went well, what needs improvement, et cetera. So there's going to be multiple opportunities on Monday for revision.
Thank you. In regards to the masks, I personally think we should require masks in the common areas, including the elevators. Commissioner Mott, I understand I think you made very valid points, but I think you're right, it doesn't really have teeth to it, but I think if I were a member of the public coming to this building and I saw the word require, I think I'd be more likely to comply than if it were to say encouraged or something like that. So I think it should be required, but I'm one of 3. So Miles, what are you thinking?
I've spoken with Commissioner Calvi about this pretty extensively, and we're at the same mindset that it's the recommendation and the aspect of not having any teeth, not being able to require people to do it. If we were to say require, are we going to open up Pandora's box to where they're gonna say, well, they required me to have a mask, so I couldn't get to court, and then is the court clerk and the judges, are they gonna get mad at the commissioners because we said require instead of recommended? We're just creating a litany of possible issues. I think once they hit the elevators, and most people are gonna use the elevators, which we're gonna require them to wear a mask, I don't know how many of those individuals are gonna take those masks off once they get an elevator, so.
Could you possibly recommend that the meeting be recessed? And so you guys can, instead of shutting this meeting down today and then come back at 4 o'clock on Monday, in case we do need to make some changes. And
Could you hear what he said?
Did you say recommend that we recess until Monday at 4?
at 4, when you
Yeah.
get through talking recess,
Right.
that way you can come back at 4.
Right.
And so if changes and we need to make some adjustments on all this, Tuesday we'll still be busy Tuesday.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Right.
I think that's,
I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with that, but I do think we need to make a call today on what wording we're going to use on Monday morning.
What would your punishment be to people if you make it where they have to wear a mask? What would you do to them if they said?
no, it's very similar to what Commissioner Wan said. My biggest fear, and I've already had, as I'm sure you had too.
I heard.
I've had the phone call from Judge Elliott, and it's the requiring aspect and the concern of any individual that's supposed to be at court saying they required me to have one, they could not provide one, I could not afford one, so I did not come to court.
I thought we had a few that we could provide people, Mr. Barnes.
We do. The actual issue of having available would be a non-issue. They are available, and they're available Monday.
Yeah.
Are we still going to restrict the elevator to no more than 2 people at a time?
No,
No.
Because of masks?
Because of the mask.
those signs are supposed to come down today.
So would you all be in agreement that we could require masks on the elevator, but strongly encourage them in the common areas?
Absolutely.
Well,
Okay.
the situation is the same. I mean, if they refuse to do it, that's what prompted my original call to council. It's essentially like we've got it on the front patio out here where we say no smoking. I mean, it's obviously disregarded every day and deputies can't do anything about it. So, that's why I had asked the question. And, you know, obviously we're all encouraging it. We could really recommend it, but at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about it if they refuse.
Well, I mean, I think we've already voted to require the mask on elevators. And
Right.
most of that is because of the issues that you brought up and rightfully brought up, the problems with moving the amount of people that the court clerk is envisioning coming up and down those elevators, so.
So Mr. Barnes, the language on, what is this, item number 7, says that we will require masks in common areas, including the elevator?
Yes, ma'am. It could be altered to say that. It currently says elevator occupants are required to wear protective masks. The alternate number 7, cloth or surgical mask use is required by all persons above the age of 2 in common areas of the Oklahoma County Annexure Courthouse, which an elevator, in my understanding, would be considered
Right.
common area.
Right. I would be fine if we required them in the elevator and then strongly encourage them everywhere else.
And I can go for that.
Okay. So I will move that we accept the recommendations of the Emergency Response Committee with a slight change to item 7 that requires masks in the elevator, but strongly encourages masks in common areas. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, that's fine. Second.
Oh, okay. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Thank you. Oh, should we reconvene? Should we recess until Monday at 4 p.m.? Okay.
It probably wouldn't hurt, just to see if there's anything that needs to be ironed out with I mean, this is a trial for sure.
Right.
I'm open to 4 o'clock on Monday if you are, at least.
Okay. Then I will move that we recess until 4 p.m. on Monday.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Mon,
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
and I will vote aye as well. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's gonna be necessary. The changes we're probably gonna have to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.